This is Brian H. Waters, and you're listening to the Three Count Podcast.
I'm in fashion.
Welcome everybody to another great edition of the Three Count Podcast presents Now Entering, and I'm your host Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up this mountain called wrestling. That's right, and by all these episodes that I've been asking you to do so, I would hope that you be calling me your Sherpa. But hey, like every good Sherpa, you gotta have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficiently than you can. That's why it's never about me, it's about who's entering the ring. And who's entering the ring today? Well, you see him right next to me. He is a content creator. He's a producer and editor, a podcaster and interviewer, and he is in charge of the wrestling realm. He is Brian H. Waters.
Wow, I need to take you on the road with me.
Hey, you know what? I'm available. I let people know that right off the jump.
Yeah, it's really cool to be here, step into the ring. Usually, I hear people. Like matter of fact, I was actually. I was either on my way to Disney World or to Dallas for WrestleMania, and I was listening to the Willow Nightingale episode.
It's like one of my favorite episodes that we've recorded. We've had like a ton of them, right? Full transparency for anybody who's wondering. We've had over, I don't know, it's now it's over 200. But having her on the show, it was just so much fun because like even the intro, like she's very upfront, very bubbly. And we actually recorded intro twice, but that was the first one I chose, and I love that intro because it was just like the realization, like in her mind, where she was like, "Oh, we also have like you could watch this or you can listen to it." And I was just like,
"That's so Willow. She's amazing."
Yes, she's actually my daughter's favorite wrestler.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So. And then we end up crossing paths like all the time, like now. So it's awesome that I get to sit back and just like chat with her. Plus, she's having great success like everywhere. So
heck yeah,
it's cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
But yo, so for people who don't know who you are, we've actually met a few times, right?
Yep.
We used to keep crossing paths like all the time. Just for kicks. We actually brought you on our podcast. We had our Super Showdown.
Yep. During the pandemic, right?
Yeah,
it was wow. 2020.
We had like 13 people on the show. That was a ridiculous episode. Ridiculously overweighted. But we learned our lesson in that episode. But then we ended up meeting each other actually at Chaz's wedding.
Right.
And then we ran into each other at a fight. And I was like, I'm gonna reach out and bring this man on the podcast. I was like, it's about time. We just keep crossing paths like this. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was the SummerSlam episode was fun though. It felt like, you also got to look at the time we was in, like where a lot of people was home. We was at that period where people were starting to go out, but it was kind of, still hesitating. And then unfortunately we be back in the house a few weeks later. But that was, it was a different change of things. And, just for everybody, just to kind of, we couldn't like, if we would have been in person, you could just imagine how much fun we all would have been having, us all being wrestling fans. So it was,
right.
Cool.
And it's one thing about like just being able to be a fan and just kind of like I don't want to like let your hair down, quote unquote, but it's just fun to be able to talk to other people who like genuinely enjoy wrestling and just want to watch it as a fan, like not critique it, not like overproduce it, but just to get to sit back and have fun and talk about who's better at such and such, right? So like right now, obviously everybody's talking like the big topic is like who's going to dethrone Roman? Is it going to be Cody? Full transparency for those. Cody has been around now for a couple weeks, but people are like, is it gonna be Cody? Is it gonna be this person, that person? I'm like, I don't care. I just want to sit back and enjoy and then talk shit. Like I think that's the best part.
Yeah, I've been fortunately for my job I have to watch wrestling, but I've been watching like a lot of old stuff. Been very, very deep into the Attitude Era. And the thing I tell people who it's always the ruthless aggression babies that say, "Oh, the Attitude Era sucked. It's overrated." And the ruthless aggression era was better because the matches. I always say like we didn't care about work rate at the time, but it was an experience. It was an experience to get up, go to school, and ask your friends, "Did you see what happened last night?" And I try to maintain that with wrestling now. Something crazy happened. I'm on Twitter talking, and I usually know how to filter out some of the people I don't want to talk or hear their opinion. And of course, like we have our post WrestleMania group chat that includes like those wrestling girls, East NYC Demon Diva, and my boy Steve, my boy Justin. So all of us, like, we was all hanging together after WrestleMania. So it's like, hey, we're gonna create this group chat. We're gonna maintain. And so I always tell people the group chats are important because you can talk wrestling with like-minded people rather than get all the bull crap on the internet.
Yeah, it's funny because like wrestling TikTok or wrestling Twitter is like it's super super toxic, right? But wrestling TikTok is like starting to clean itself up. Like a lot of people are like policing it and just kind of like making sure they're keeping track of each other and stuff like that. And so it's genuinely kind of starting to turn a little more positive. But you're right, like being able to sit back and chat with people about wrestling, and wrestling fans that just want to have a good time. And there's no better feeling. And I remember like back in the day as a kid, like waking up and like getting excited to go to school and like talk about, hey man, did you check out what happened on Monday Nitro last night? And then and someone's like, nah, I was watching Raw. I'm like, oh, well, what happened on Raw? Because like at the time, like I was too lazy to flip the channel. So
man. I didn't have cable during the height of the Monday Night Wars, but my grandmother did. So like she would record Raw for me, and then I figure out what happened on Nitro, like watching Worldwide. But there was times like when I was spending the night during Christmas break or spring break, and there was plenty of tapes that I would go back and watch, and you would see the channel change because I was changing the channel during Raw and during Nitro.
I got fortunate, man. Like I was able to, when I really started getting into WWE and WWF, WWE, once they really started getting into it, yeah. And I was like flipping between like channel 15 and channel 27 and trying to figure out like what one I wanted to watch and what main event I wanted to watch. That was like the most important part. So anytime that I saw Sting was on TV, I was like, that's it. Like I'm watching that. And then like whenever Austin like really started coming at the height, it was like, I'll watch Austin. But you're right. It was like, it's all about the experience of something. Like I really try. So the one rule for the 3 Count podcast, right, is I tell them in the month of January and leading up, if you hear anything about the Royal Rumble, if you say something when I see you, I will punch you in the mouth. I was like, the Royal Rumble is like sacred ground to me. I don't give a shit about, anybody out there watching this, I don't give a shit about WrestleMania. I just don't. Like, those matches are, yeah. And I'll tell you why. All those matches get lined up and stuff, and you pretty much know what the card's going to fill up to be like, right? But the Royal Rumble, I feel, is like the only time where you can get genuinely surprised and you can get like real reactions out of it, right? Like Cody Rhodes coming back at WrestleMania, right? Although like everybody knew he was going to come back because like it had been like talked about since he left AEW, that was still massive, but it was kind of ruined for me because like everybody was talking about it. The Royal Rumble, like 30 competitors, and you never know who's going to show up. And I'm always excited about who's going to show up. So whenever like one of my friends is like, yo, I had to spoil that Royal Rumble, I don't care. Don't talk about it with me. Just keep it to yourself. I'm going to punch you in the mouth.
No, I can definitely understand that. It's nothing like the sitting there during the anticipation of the match. And I try not to get too worked over like hoping there's so many surprises, because then there's like people go back and be like, oh well, they didn't have that many surprises this year and this, that, and the other. But it's still like the anticipation. This year's Royal Rumble was like Rock won, but it was still fun. I think the women had a phenomenal Royal Rumble, and it's funny you bring that up because I still have my notes because I was working that night. So I literally, we did a post show for the Ringer. So I had literally like wrote down everybody's entry just in case, like, producing, somebody asked a question. We was doing what's now called Spotify Live, but it was called Green Room at the time. So I didn't know if I was going to have to send them messages like, okay, this person came in, this person, and this person was eliminated. So that was the first. I think that was the first live Green Room I worked. Well, I did do Survivor Series, but we didn't record it. But I was like just trying to be super on point that day, and I was like, it's just funny because I still had this paper And I think I used the back of it for Wrestling Realm Notes the other day. But I was like, wow, I still got the paper. This is the women's well, yeah, this is the women's Royal Rumble. And you can see Ronda Rousey's name written right there. But yeah, it's nothing like it. The WrestleMania though, for me, it's between the nostalgia, WrestleMania 6, the last one I watched with my grandfather, 17, my grandmother, 26 in person with my Uncle Mike, so it's like a lot of family ties for me. Me and my mother, I remember we watched WrestleMania, which they would order WrestleMania for me every year throughout the years we had cable. And then when we didn't have cable no more, and then we eventually got satellite in 2001. And, it was the big pay-per-views they would order, but they always would order WrestleMania. And like it was, so it's always been huge to me. With Cody this year, it was different because I was working, right? So at work, you're trying to stay away because for people who may think with the Spotify and the Ringer, Spotify and WWE deal, it's just more the partnership of like, we get access to talent and stuff, but it's nothing on like, they control us or we know the spoilers or anything. So, funny story for you. The day before WrestleMania Night 1, my manager comes to me and the other producer. He says, "Hey, y'all want to record? We get the first interview with Seth Rollins' opponent. Which one of y'all want to produce it?" Now, here's the thing: you might miss one or two matches. So I'm sitting there. I'm like, man, and of course, we don't know the match order. I want to see Bianca's match. I wanted to be in the arena for that experience. I wanted to be in the arena for Stone Cold. Those are the two things that I really wanted to be in the arena for. So I'm like, all right, we'll see. So I had like, let me think about it. The other guy said he would think about it. So we think, and then I thought about it. I talked to my best friend, the real Dwayne Allen, and he says, "Oh, bro, you got to do that. You've been to WrestleMania before. This is an opportunity to produce a part of history." He's like, "Let's not kid ourselves. We know it's Cody Rhodes, and you could be right there." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right." And so, sure enough, I text my manager. I was like, "Put me in, coach." So he says the other guy said he would do it. I'm like, "All right, I'll talk to him." So that morning, the next morning, I remember I was getting breakfast, and then he hit me up. He said, "Hey, what time you going to the arena?" Yeah. I said, "Hey, so the interview, you mind if I do it?" And shout out to Jonathan Kermer, the babyface producer, because he'll tell you in a minute that I'm a bigger wrestling fan than him. So he's like, "Yeah, bro, you could do it, whatever." So and I remember going to WrestleMania. I kept telling my manager, I said, "I think it's Cody." He's like, who else?" I said, "It's gotta be like, who else would it be?" But to be able to do that, and to be able to be, first of all, backstage at WrestleMania, that was crazy. I'm like, you're trying, how it is. You're a fan of this, and you being a fan your whole life, you think, man, like, this is phenomenal. Like everything you see, like, when they do the documentaries and you see them riding on the carts and stuff. I got to ride on the cart to get my bag out of one room and then to go to the other room. And then I had to edit the interview right away. And then turn it around and still, get back out to the front because I wanted to see Stone Cold. Now it worked out because, I missed Charlotte versus Ronda, which wasn't as bad as people made it seem. It wasn't a great match. But it wasn't like I was watching. I said, this match ain't that bad. I think because also I didn't watch it with the fatigue of Bianca winning, the fatigue of Cody coming back, and so, and then, the New Day's match got cut, pushed to the next night. So I was in my head before that, I was like, I'm thinking I got time. It's like, no, New Day got cut. So by the time I got back out to the arena, Kevin Owens was in the ring already. So I got a chance to, and I ain't had to go back to my seat. I could stand near the photographers. So I have on my phone the footage, like me recording of Kevin Owens talking, and then boom, the glass shattered. And that was my first time seeing Stone Cold Steve Austin in person. So that right there was like, oh my goodness, like that's him. You hear the glass shatter. It's like everything you think of as a child. It was amazing.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And see, what's funny for me was like, I've only been to 2 WWE events, right? So one of them was SmackDown, and the other one was actually NXT when they came to Maryland, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
remember which one?
NXT. Well, it was NXT Bel Air. So they
You
had just
remember?
came.
Was that because I went to one in June? It was like Father's Day weekend, 2017.
It would have been so it in the way that they filmed it chronologically, right? It would have been the
Mhm.
very last match of Punishment Martinez,
Oh, okay,
and
yeah.
Keith Lee was there.
Oh, okay. So you was more recent.
Yeah. So what was so funny was and then like yeah, it was weird because it was Punishment Martinez, and then the next week, Damian Priest showed up, and obviously it was like the same dude.
Yeah.
What's funny though about the whole thing, right, was the match that I got to go to on SmackDown, right? It was coincidentally the last SmackDown for CM Punk, and it was the first time me getting to see Rey Mysterio like in person.
Wow.
And so like
Yeah.
this is my childhood idol. I didn't get the chance to meet him. One day it'll happen. But I popped regardless. My my buddy was sitting next to me, and as soon as I saw the eyes, I just exploded out of my seat. So
Are you
I
planning to try to go to Royal Rumble next year?
you know what? So Chad's goal for the 3 Count podcast, for those who are looking and paying attention, is to make it to a WrestleMania
Mhm.
via via WWE bringing us out. And so whatever pay-per-view I can get on, you're damn right. Like I would
Yeah.
definitely go. And if I could work as an extra for WWE in the Royal Rumble, bet let me get that too.
You said, "Nah, I
I'll
feel you."
work secure. I'll be a security guard. I don't care. It's just or like the medical, the, the person with medical, and just take them out. I don't care.
Yeah,
But
I
yes,
wanted to do the big 4 for real. I've done Survivor Series and, WrestleMania. I've been to 3 WrestleManias. Um, I was actually supposed to go to SummerSlam 2015, but I had just put my 2-week notice in at ESPN. I found that out, like, I put my notice in, say, that Friday, that next day, or that next Monday or Tuesday. My manager was like, "Dang, man, you leaving? I'm gonna send you to SummerSlam." I'm like, but I was moving back home, and that was Brock and Taker, and so I
right.
was like, "Ugh," but, um, hopefully I should be going to SummerSlam this year, so that'll be cool. I've done Money in the Bank in Philly. That was the year Randy Orton won, which he would cash in the next month, unfortunately. But yeah, it's nothing like it, man. I tell you, and like I said, the Royal Rumble is one I definitely want to get to, just to be in the crowd, the countdown, and to see everything. I can just imagine the experience.
Oh yeah, I would. I don't know. I feel like for me, like it would have been awesome to get to see like the return of Rey Mysterio when he came
Mhm.
back. AJ Styles like debut at the Royal Rumble. There's like so
Let
many
You
cool
know what?
moments to me.
That one, I get mad every time I think about that one. I'm gonna tell you why. If you remember, that was the rare occasion when the NFC Championship game was
Yeah,
on at the same day, because the Rumble is always in between.
right.
So it was the Cardinals. They had just the Panthers had just blew out the Cardinals, and got that game on. I was working with Fox Sports 1340, so I was like, all right, get ready to change the channel. Boom, turn to the Royal Rumble, and I'm on Instagram just scrolling through, and I see Styles P on WWE's page. And I'm like, why are y'all tipping people off on Instagram before they come out? So I put my phone down. I was just mad. Like, of course, we didn't know the music. And I remember my son being like, "Who's that? Who's that?" And then I'm like trying to get up for it. Like, yeah, he's here. AJ Styles is here. But I just always think about it. Like, I was just so mad that they was giving away the next entry. Is like up next. And entry number 5. I'm like, why would y'all do that? Like, whoever's was producing digital media back then, I'm wondering why. I'm glad they don't do that now, or maybe I just don't be on Instagram during the Royal Rumble, but I don't think they do that anymore.
Yeah, I don't. That's my thing too. Is like for the Rumble, like I stay away from like all social media, like even like the
Even
day
during the
before.
match?
Yeah,
Okay.
during the match, because I'll text it like, well, like so this year, right, was the first year where the 3 Count podcast kind of had like live tweeting during the Royal Rumble, and
Mhm.
so like I was tweeting out every entry that was coming in, and I was expecting like to get that like, hey, who's gonna be the big pop that shows up? And like, we really didn't get it for the men's one, but for the women one, right? Like Ivory was there. It was cool to see her. And there was like so many other cool people that were like involved, and it was just like I got to share it. But yeah, whenever it gets down to like, I think it's usually like 2 or 3 days before the Royal Rumble, like I just shut off all social media because I'm like, if anybody spoils this Rumble for me, I swear to God.
So like when the 2014 Rumble, I had to work. This is when I was still in Connecticut working at ESPN, and we had the shift called ABC News One, and basically it was just you take highlights off the server from ESPN, send it to ABC News One in New York, and they would send it to like the smaller stations that all over the country that like don't send people to cover sports. And I was like, all right, I got to work on the Royal Rumble day. So what I'm gonna do is I deleted every like app that would spoil it off my phone. So like I took Facebook off my phone, I took Twitter off my phone. I didn't answer any text messages, and I made it very clear: do not text me, do not call me during the Royal Rumble because I gotta work. And when I get back home, I'm going, I had ordered it. This is the last pay-per-view I had ordered. Because the network was, you remember the network came out the day after the Elimination Chamber the next month. So I ordered that pay-per-view, and I remember I went in the house, I had a pizza in the oven, and I watched it all the way through. And then, sure enough, my guy Daniel Bryan didn't even get inserted in the Royal Rumble, and Bautista would end up winning.
Well, if you remember too, that Rumble in particular, Rey Mysterio was the last entrant.
Yep.
And booed the shit out of
How
him.
did that make you feel?
I was on, okay, so I didn't really pay attention to like the crowd like booing, right? Because I was just like, whatever. But what really upset me was that they didn't even acknowledge that Rey Mysterio got eliminated. Like, like he comes in, right, all hellfire, and then like he's in, blah 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 blah, and then like it's the final four, but no one talks about it. Like, it's like, where's Rey? And then like Rey kind of just like silently left the WWE like right after that, and I was like, yo, we're not gonna talk about this, okay? That's where we're at. But I remember like being a little pissed too.
He showed up in was it MCW a couple of years later.
Yeah. Well, like I remember and I remember being pissed too because like the fans were like, we wanted Daniel Bryan, and I understood, right? Because there's like, but that was also the year that Punk got eliminated, right? Was that the same year where he got pulled over the top rope by Kane?
I think so. And then the next day was his last day.
Yeah, he left and went off of Raw. Like, and I was like, yo, it's like there was like a lot of things that happened in that Royal Rumble that people just don't talk about because that some people are like, well, that was supposed to be like Daniel Bryan's run at Royal WrestleMania was supposed to be CM Punk's run, but even CM Punk was like, yo, no, Daniel Bryan's your hot ticket, like put him in. So I don't know. I understood.
I don't think I've watched that Royal Rumble again since. I might have watched it like once, but like I've totally forgot, like Raiden getting eliminated, not getting acknowledged.
Yeah, because I think like even they might have said it even in passing too. Was like oh, there's the final four. Rey Mysterio was being eliminated, and they just kept it pushing. But I was like, yo, like he was in there for like maybe 2 minutes and then got eliminated. I was like, that's disrespectful to the greatest mass wrestler of all time.
And then the next year, when Daniel Bryan came in like number 10, and then everybody wanted that redemption story for him to get back at WrestleMania because he never lost the belt. And then people, some people said, do you really, we don't know how his health is. Do you really want him in the ring with Brock and all that? And then that's when, the infamous Roman Reigns win. Because that's what I do remember. I think it was down to Roman and Batista, right? And people was actually cheering for Roman because they just didn't want Batista to win. Like everybody saw the writing on the wall.
I just remember too, like, and this is what I love about like the Rumble, right? Was like Nakamura winning and Asuka winning was like two of my favorite like winners, right? Next, and obviously Rey Mysterio, right? But more importantly, we'll just talk about Nakamura and Asuka because it was like a huge moment for both of them, and neither one of them won at WrestleMania. And I remember being so pissed. I was like, "What the hell just happened?"
I was almost sure Asuka was going to win. You know,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, she's gonna win. Nakamura, I didn't think so. I just didn't see them taking the title off AJ Styles. But if you had to like, if I had to pick which one, but I'm one. So that match with Oscar and Charlotte is on my like top 5 WrestleMania matches. But I don't. I understand because Charlotte was going to eventually have. I mean, Oscar was going to eventually have to lose
Right.
because she had to lose. I think that was the time to do it, especially if you was going to go Carmella. Then you don't want Carmella cashing in on Oscar. Like she would have been a heat magnet for real.
Yeah. So you had mentioned it, right? Like you had a pizza in the oven during your Royal Rumble, right? But I got to know, like, what's your favorite snack to have like during pay-per-views?
Usually some wings. You know, what I do now, because now with work we go live afterwards. I don't get a chance to go out. I could, but it wouldn't. It's probably not feasible just because I got to make sure that like when we're doing the green rooms, I can pay attention and everything. So it's not really feasible to go out somewhere and watch it, or. But what I'll do is I'll me and my kids will sit back and we'll order food and either wings and pizza or whatever, and then we'll watch it
I
and
like that.
fries, of course.
Of course, you got to have all that stuff too. Like I definitely
Hmm.
like that idea, and it's fun because like I know for me, WrestleMania this year being 2 nights, I actually missed the first like 4 matches for night one,
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah, Chaz, it's 100% his fault. Uh, just gonna put it on him because it was, and
Mhm.
like getting back and watching it, and then night two, I was like, I remember like cooking, and I was just like, "Ayo, like I don't care what you guys do. Sorry, fam, but we were watching WrestleMania." Like I just put everything aside. I was just sitting there like snacking on cookies, like while I'm watching WrestleMania.
Yeah, so like last year and the year before last, um, yeah, was it? Well, the one with Bianca and Sasha, I had actually cooked on the grill earlier in the day, and I cooked on the grill, and I think I might have did it the year before last too, but that was just me and the kids. But yeah, the last year I had my nieces and nephews over as well as my kids. But I cooked on the grill, and we had food. I realized like the 2 night WrestleManias. At first, I was like, "All right, this is cool. It's nothing else." I was like, "I see how I like it." I actually do like it. I think this year it was be it like going, you thinking, okay, you it's kind of weird because when you go to WrestleMania, you used to like oh man, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Oh,
I got
okay.
you. I got you.
Everything like froze on mine. Sorry about that. But when you doing the 2 night WrestleManias, you used to like when going, you used to that everything leading up to Sunday. So it's like Saturday gets here, it's like, yeah, it's WrestleMania, but you're so used to it being WrestleMania Sunday. And then afterwards you wake up the next day, it's like, we gotta do that again. You gotta get to the arena again and whatnot. But it was it was still good. I think this year's, a lot of people say night two was way better than I've heard night one was better. It's a toss up for me. Night 2 definitely had that shock with Austin and, McMahon and the worst stunner. Everybody talks about the video editors who deserve a raise.
It's funny too, right? Because like I know on TikTok, like while I was like putting content out, there's a guy who said that Austin Theory's sell of the stunner was a disgrace to Austin's legacy. And I was
What?
like, "What?" And like now and by the way, you're welcome, guy. I don't remember your name, your handle, but you're welcome for getting this like other quick 30-second recognition about your video, your bad take on that because we were like, and so many people from the wrestling community was like, "Bro, if you're not watching The Rock, Hall, or even
Mhm.
like Dolph Ziggler, like you have no idea what you're talking about because there's
Y
these were guys who were like selling the shit out of it, or like
Yep.
Santino Morella like doing the salute as he like gets stunned. It was like there's so many people who did the same thing. Well, Xavier Woods also
Yeah.
did the same kick, like the flare, hands flaring everything. I was like, there's so many people who have done this same kind of selling. You cannot come back here and be like, nah, Austin Theory was the worst. I was like, Austin was kind of tame compared to the rest of everybody else.
How about when shoot, what's his name? I forgot it. I remember when he got Byron Saxton. You know,
Right.
so I didn't realize who it was because afterwards, when we were celebrating, I had left my jacket backstage, so I had to go back there, and I was standing there, and we was in the room where I had edited, and everybody's like, "Who's that? Who's that in the ring?" Because if we didn't see him get up and go in there, but yeah, it's always fun watching the stunner. But how'd you feel when you saw Kevin Owens hit Austin with the stunner?
Yo, I was like, bet. I was like, it's
That
about time, right? Because
that's
like Vince,
respect.
Vince did it from like the the 90s, remember? Because he
Yeah.
used to always talk about get him with the stunner arm, and he used to do the stunner. So watching
Mhm.
Kevin Owens do it was kind of a cool like trade moment, like
Yeah.
like kind of like a passing of the guard.
Yep.
I really liked it a lot.
Yeah, me too.
I think Austin or not Austin, Pat McAfee's sell of the stunner like night two was it will probably go down as like one of my favorites of like all time because it's just shooting the beer out like a fountain. I was like, who thinks of that? I was like, I'm so grateful that we have
That
someone like him.
that guy is such a natural entertainer, and you could see like when he stepped out there in the arena, I always go back and watch everything that I go to, and you could see like the way he was just like taking it all in, and then when he did the punt, and then he got a match with Vince McMahon, like that right there, like he ain't win, you know,
Right.
and it's crazy because we might have seen Austin and McMahon both have their last matches, and they just broke all the rules going out on top when they're back.
I was like, oh dang, Vince, like I know it's been a while since you've been in the ring, but your clotheslines look like just trash. I was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, and I get it. I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
So people who put the hate section out there, like, I get it. Yeah, he's an old man now, man. But you mean to tell me my guy who used to be a genetic jackhammer can't keep his hand up here? Like, it's just down here, right across the nipple line. Like, come on, man. We know the rules. Like, I was genuinely like, ooh, that's kind of. I was like, Pat McAfee is just selling his ass off in this match.
Yeah. Oh shoot, that okay.
Yo, but a question I have for you, right, that I wanted to ask, like,
Mhm.
what's been like one of the hardest lessons that you've had getting into the you know creating content for people in the wrestling business?
Let's see. I would say it's how you measure success, right? A lot of people like to measure success by views and listens, and I would say don't do that. Measure the success by how you feel about your product, because if you feel good about it and you go, 110%, and you feel great, then you'll be more willing to share it. And when you're willing to share it, there you go. And I would say another lesson is you'll find that your listeners and consumers will be strangers. Everybody, of course, everybody love to have their family support, but when you really think about it, and as AEW like talk about the demos, the demographic isn't your family if they're not wrestling fans. Now, if you got family and friends that are wrestling fans and they listen to everything else, but they don't want to listen to you, even though they just going to ask you about the product anyway on the phone, that might be a problem. But you'll find that I've learned that people I've never met in person have been supporting me for the past 10 going on 11 years. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's something like with this show, like full transparency for those who are wondering, this is episode 241 that we've done. And like for now entering the ring, right, which was a show that we started in May during the pandemic, and we were just trying to get out content and stuff like that, just like everybody else. So to see like this show grow and stuff, like I've genuinely been excited and like wanting to put out so much more out there because it's fun. And
Mhm.
and I remember like talking with Chris Van Vliet, right? And I was telling him, I was like, we get we average like 6 or 8 listens an episode. And full transparency for those who don't know, that's what we do. And I was like, I don't care because I genuinely just love this show and I love doing it and I have so much fun with it. So I never think about like the listenership versus like what I get to put out and then the content. And I know people will find it and they'll listen to it and they'll have fun with it. But it's like one of these things that just I'm glad that Chaz asked me to be like a part of this journey and like
Mhm.
being able to create something pretty much like just out of whim, just turn something so cool. And also for those who aren't sure, we're recording this on April 22nd, right, of 2022. This is actually the first day that we actually dropped an episode of Now Entering. So this is like kind of like a cool moment for me to be able to share
Wow,
that with somebody.
congrats.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. So it's cool, and we get to have these episodes, and we get to talk to people, and like we've had a who's list, and you know, for us, I think like I keep telling people, I was like, sky's the ceiling, man. Like the sky's the limit. We can take this as far as we want, and I genuinely I pop myself every time I think about like this is a 2-year anniversary for this show. I was like, damn, that's crazy.
And that's the hard part for a lot of people. If you go on Apple and you look for like podcasts, or you go on Spotify, there's so many podcasts out there. But then there's like, let's just say, let me just throw a number. Let's say it's 10 million. There's probably 500,000 that's only got 1 or 2 episodes, because people give up so quickly. And I'm like, if you want to do this, be consistent. People, ask me about, I want to start a podcast, this, that, and the other. Okay, why? Because it's kind of like, it's like, is it a fad or is it something you want to do? All right, if you start a podcast, do you know what you want to talk about? Do you know who your target audience is? You know, then go ahead and do it, but be consistent. Because if you're inconsistent, then you can't build an audience, you
Right.
know.
And that's the one thing, like, I look at myself and I think about, like, our journey, like, was so rough because, like, we were putting out 2 episodes. I remember putting out, like, 2 episodes every week. It would seem like it was, like, every week, right? And,
Mhm.
what ended up happening was I was recording and, you know, during the pandemic, like, you know, everything was off the table. Like, you could break all the rules. And so, like,
Pretty much.
one problem I ended up running into was that I had a backlog of
Oh man.
like 18 episodes that I was like I had edited, hadn't done anything for it yet, and I was like, oh my god, like I really need to release all these episodes so that we can get to the episodes that we want to get to. And so I remember like
Mhm.
1 month, I just did a full drop. And it was like every day there was a new episode coming out. And then we were trying to product, you know, trying to market it, tell people about it, go check it out and stuff. It was hard. It was really, really hard to like be able to talk about it with people. But you know, I think now we're kind of like in that good schedule where, you know, I may have like, and if anybody doesn't know how many episodes I record, we probably do 4 episodes a week. And
Oh
then
wow.
I'll get to like 12 that are in the can, edit all 12, put them out, and I won't even record another episode for like 3 weeks. And then I come back and knock out like another 12 and then put those out. And so it just keeps rotating, keep putting out more and more content, but usually comes within like the month. So it's always really interesting to like try to stay consistent, but we definitely focus more on that Tuesday and Thursday schedules when we're dropping these episodes.
Yeah, man. And as long as you have like your time and your schedule, I say I'm going to bring it back, but I've literally haven't had time to bring back my Breaking Through the Glass Ceilings podcast because that's kind of the same thing. It's more like um, it's actually more talking to people about their careers and their career journeys. So I first thing when I first did it, it was one point I had like 6 episodes already lined up, and I had all scheduled. But then, I was like, all right, cool, I'm good. Then I started getting backed up. Then it was like, all right, now every week I'm trying to book a guest. And so the last one I kind of did, and then I just kind of just went away silently. And I keep saying, like, I'm gonna bring it back, I'm gonna bring it back. I already know who I want to interview, but it's just a matter of picking a time, and you're trying to balance work, balance your family and whatnot. And so that's the thing too, because even with like now doing more stuff for the wrestling realm. It's like, all right, well, we gotten to the point now we got a Patreon account. So now we got to create content for that. We got our merch store, so we gotta, promote that. So it's like, well, breaking through glass ceilings, it can wait.
Yes. And it does really come down to like the timing thing too. Like you're right. Like, for those who are trying to figure out like a lesson, yo, like I remember one day I had an open day and I was just like, well, let me schedule like a bunch of interviews and I'll put things together. And you go out and you go talk to all the different wrestlers that you want to put on and you get them all scheduled up. And then of course like things happen. So you may lose like one episode or two episodes, but I remember doing like 4 episodes, and then like the next day I was like, I have to edit all these episodes. And I was like, I don't have the time. So you have to like
Mhm.
plan for like not just like the time that you are trying to record, which typically like for me, I'm trying to record at night, but then you also have to plan for like you're gonna have to sit down and edit all these episodes and figure
Yeah.
that out. And that's also the toughest part too. I'm just like, man, I can't do anything. So a lot of the time, like if you guys are wondering for those at home, unless it's like egregious, I won't edit on these episodes. I'm just like put it out there in this full transparent form because I want people to see like, yeah, I treat the show exactly how I say I treat the show, and it's always fun.
Yeah, and that's what I do. With the Wrestling Realm Now podcast, I remember me, Dwayne, and now we have added our good brother Hugh. We will sit there, all the elements are already put together. So, I can hit the intro button, boom, record. Unless, there's an internet hiccup, don't have to worry about it. We just go right into it. And rip the audio, upload it to Anchor, and we're good to go.
Yep. Yo, Anchor has been such a lifesaver for me.
Hmm.
Really, it really has. So man, another question I really want to ask you, right,
Uh-huh.
is like, so we kind of talked about like things that brought you in with like family and stuff like that. But like, what kind of advice would you want to give to like people who are really wanting to get into this like place?
As far as, just podcasting or content
Yeah,
creation, wrestling, okay.
we'll go with podcasting.
Yeah, yeah, main thing is just being consistent, knowing, identifying your target audience from the jump. For me, breaking through glass ceilings, target audience is college students or people who looking for inspiration, or people who like hearing people's stories of success. The wrestling realm and ringer wrestling and stuff. Obviously, it's wrestling fans. So, it's really just knowing your target audience. That's very important because if you go out there and you recording stuff and you sending it to the wrong people, you'll be upset. You're like, why you ain't listening? Well, if you recorded a podcast about baseball and you send it to all your friends and none of them watch baseball, they're gonna listen to 1 or 2 episodes just because they like you. Then afterwards, they're not gonna take the time to do it because when you're asking people to listen to your show or consume your content, you're literally, asking them for their time at the end of the day. You're asking them for take time out of their day, time away from whatever their favorite TV show is, and listen to your stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah, you really, you really are. You're asking a lot, and that's also like another thing too. Like, one thing I like to tell people too is like, you had hit around the head with knowing your audience, but then knowing your time limit. Like,
mhm.
typically, like I like to keep episodes like around like the debate shows on a Sunday. If you're watching it live, it's probably like an hour and 10 minutes long now because we've actually got a real structure to it.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was just kind of like free reign, and some days we might pop off like a 2 hour episode and try to figure out why we were going for 2 hours. But for like for like this kind of show though, I like keeping these like we sometimes these shows will go over an hour and it's fine, but genuinely the most part it's usually like 35 to 45 minutes long because I understand like listen, we got a lot of things going on in life and I just want to get to like the meat and potatoes of like everybody's favorite subjects, which is where they want to learn, right? And
Mhm.
know your time, like what you want to do and how long you want people to listen to your show. And as long as you're keeping things entertaining, like the show will take on its own life. And that's where I'm always like be entertaining, know your timing, and then also know your demographic that you're aiming for.
Yep. You hit it right on the head.
So, listen, man, like we these are like most like those like my two big heavy hitting questions I really want to ask. But we got to get into the second best segment of this podcast, and you're
Let's
probably
do
wondering
it.
what's the first, and that's usually the Red Dogs Power Rankings that you'll find on our debate show every Sunday. But this is the 3 count podcast, 10 count questions, and this is how it works. I'm gonna fire off 10 questions at you, rapid fast, and whatever your answer is, that's your answer.
All right.
So we're gonna put on the imaginary timer for added pressure. Bing! And here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
SmackDown.
Favorite movie?
Oh, let's say Barbershop.
Okay. Sonic or Mario?
Mario.
Favorite color?
Orange.
PlayStation or Xbox?
PlayStation.
Favorite submission?
Sharpshooter.
Are you a night owl or an early bird?
I can go either way, but let's say night.
Okay. Favorite podcast?
The Wrestling Realm.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? If I say anybody else, then I spike somebody else. You know, we're gonna give the ladies love, those wrestling girls.
Yeah. All right. Nominate one person that you want to see on this podcast.
Oh, nominate one person. You had the real Dwayne Allen on yet? No, because he don't do too many public appearances, so he'd be a good person. Yeah, you said one person. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Bet. And then last but not least, my favorite question I ask every single person who comes on this show. Favorite curse word?
Shit.
It is legit like a great word. Like I just don't know how people. Like it's fun. It's fun to say at any given time.
That is probably the best question I've ever been asked right here on the 3 Count podcast. I've never been asked that question. I usually try to
Hey, it's my favorite question. Like 100%. Like I don't worry about it.
Oh man.
This is also how I know that like our show on YouTube will never get monetized because every episode, like I'm always asking this question.
You can get monetized with curse words. My cousin did.
Bet. All right. Well, then I figured it out. And
It's
Don't
that
worry about
goddamn algorithm. I swear. I haven't been able to crack the code. I'm trying to get my watch time up. I got the subscribers, which was, you know, a pain, but now it's like, all right, how can I get just, you know, that watch time?
it was so weird. Like when I cracked 100, when the 3 Count podcast cracked 100 subscribers,
Mhm.
and I was able to just get my own custom URL, and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And now, like, I'm just looking at like I think we're at like 177 subscribers. It's like 1,000 just seems like it's forever away.
Man, yeah. It what hurt YouTube, in my opinion, was once Facebook started integrating video in their timeline, Twitter started integrating video. So people stopped leaving. I mean, so you know, I used to be able to post a link on Facebook. Boom. People say, "Oh, video cool, click, go watch." Now because people are like, "Well, I ain't stopping. I ain't gonna get off Facebook to go to your YouTube channel," and they keep scrolling because somebody else got something, you know. So that's always one of the things that's been tough.
Yeah, I have to figure out like how to get people to just like watch our content and have fun watching our content. Like that'll be the toughest thing.
I would
But
say, you know, share in, you know, group chats and stuff. Don't be apologetic about sharing your content with, you know, people that you know will consume it. And you know, and clipping off hot takes, putting it directly on the timeline and say, hey, for the full show, come here. You know, so that those type of stuff, it's time consuming, but you know, it helps.
that is the number one thing. It is time consuming. It
Mhm.
really is. But hey, those are all my questions that I do have to ask. So I just need you to let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you.
Yeah, I mean, you can Google me, Brian H. Waters. No, but yeah, you can first of all, follow me on Twitter at Brian H. Waters. I was on a Black Wrestling podcast, and as Brother Fam would say, make sure you put the H in. And Brother Math was like, "Who the?" He put in the chat, "Who the is Brian Waters? It's Brian H. Waters." But yeah, you can follow me there on Twitter, Instagram. I have a Facebook page. You can go to Brian H. Waters Talk Show or B. Waters Productions. Of course, follow the Wrestling Realm at Wrestling Realm, realm being spelled with a W, make it alliteration. Shout out to my mother. That was her idea. And then follow me on Ring of Wrestling, and you can catch me every Tuesday on the Mac Mania podcast, produced by myself and, you know, hosted by Evan Mack, Flowo Boyce, and Real Jack Farmer. Every Wednesday on Wrestling Realm Now podcast, which is hosted by me, the Real Dwayne Allen, and Brother Hugh. And I make guest appearances where requested.
Well, there you guys have it. He gave you all the handles. He told you everywhere that he's gonna be. So you know, like every part of every great part of a wrestling match we got to take this home. Because this is the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering the Ring, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up this mountain called wrestling. But like every good Sherpa, you got to have someone that's been there, done that, and can do it more efficiently than you can. That's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. And you see the man, the myth, the legend right there, Brian H. Waters. He's here with us in the hot seat, and you guys know what to do. Tune in to the next episode and be there, or you just wait for this episode to end. You wait for the outro, and then you choose another episode to listen to. Peace. What's going on, 3 Count Nation? I'm Clifford Red Dog Miller with the catchphrase. But what I really want you to do right now, go to twitter.com, right? Go over there, find us at the 3count_pod, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a comment. We want to talk to you guys. Go to IG at the 3 Count Pod. Give us a like, give us a follow, leave us a comment. We want to interact with you. Go to youtube.com, give subscribe, turn the bell on, turn the notifications, leave a comment. We want to talk to you. Go to anchor.fm/the 3 Count Podcast, and in there, you can leave us a message, and we will talk to you. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that we want to talk to you. We want to have fun with you guys, and we love listening to what you guys have to say. Also, one thing I need you to do for me, the 3 Count Podcast also has merchandise. Oh, at ProWrestlingTees.com/the 3 Count Pod. Please go buy our t-shirts. We love you guys, and we hope you love us too. So show us some support, please.